It's finally here, the day that X-Men 97 drops, and I am going to review every single thing about it. To me, my know-it-alls, because the review for X-Men 97 episodes 1 and 2 starts right now. What's up, my know-it-alls? All right, can I just tell you, I've been waiting for this moment. It has been so exciting since they announced that X-Men was coming back, the classic X-Men animated series, and they started dropping little hints and teasers and images and whatnot. So finally, to wake up this morning and get to literally consume both episodes as if it was Saturday morning was just mind-blowing. So let's dive right into it. The very first episode is literally called To Me, My X-Men, and it's an actual 1 year later from when the series ended. So Charles Xavier had died, and for those of you playing at home, Charles Xavier actually was taken away by the Shi'ar because he had a thing that they had to help him with, and unfortunately it was going to cause it so that he couldn't come back, or he was going to have to stay there for a very long time. He's gone in the interim. The intro was amazing. The intro actually reminded me, it's perfect. It's been painstakingly crafted and recreated to evoke the original intro. The intro music, the song is the same. The arrangement's different than the original. And in fact, I'll put them side by side right here. Right? Okay. So you see a slight tonal differences that are going on. The animation's super smooth, very slick. They're doing their best to recreate that style, but I also believe that they have improved it. The entire thing is done letterbox. So the entire thing is done in 16:9 aspect ratio, so it's cinematically animated with the blacks, the bars at the top and bottom. And so I really enjoyed this presentation, as in, like, I'm down, I'm here for it. And it's so faithfully been recreated. The entire world has sort of shifted forward. X-Men are now working alongside Val Cooper and the UN, and they're sort of helping. Cyclops has taken very to heart that he is the new leader. He's very much prepared himself mentally for the fact that he is now going to have to carry the torch that Charles Xavier left behind. Enter the caveat. Jean Grey is pregnant, and so she's sort of in the periphery, very much like an Oracle from the Batman comic books, but in that she stays home, she does whatever, she helps them all. She's their man in the chair right this moment. Everyone else everyone's doing an amazing job. Let's be real for a moment. You can absolutely tell that they have all aged, but their voices are still very good. Nobody has lost their flair. There was a brief argument about Morph. I think it's a moot point. Morph was Morph. I thought he did great. He was constantly turning into other people and this and that. They have utilized Morph's power to the ultimate. So the original series, I feel like they didn't know how to properly, I wanted to say honor. It was the best version we had ever gotten of animation having to do with the X-Men. Let me say that first off, okay? The original cartoon has been romanticized, but at the same time, it was brilliant for its time. This genuinely knows who and what the X-Men are, in that everyone's using their powers the best way possible, the way they would in the comics. It's amazing. Morph's turning into everybody. At one point, they're going somewhere and their plane gets blown up. They're going after Master Mold or whatever, because Jean has used Cerebro to get into the head of Henry Peter Gyrick, who they find. They ultimately find Trask, Bolivar Trask. They find the guy they're looking for. They have a spare Master Mold, and so and that's the clip. You get that big fight. Anyway, so they're on their way to where the thing is. The plane is blown up by the Blackbird is blown up by Sentinels, and so everyone's going down. You see Morph turn into Archangel so he can fly. Later on, he's fighting a dude, And he's literally turning into everybody. He's turning into Colossus, and he's bulletproof. He's turning into this person, and he's turning into Psylocke, and he's fighting. And it's like, he's amazing. Morph is arguably one of the most pleasant surprises, I believe, of the new series. He's so great. They don't shy away from storytelling. By that, I mean, they didn't try to update how stories are told in this series. I was worried we were going to get this very surface, very anime-esque, current modern animation-esque storytelling that sort of doesn't really do, that is very surface in a lot of ways. And I was like, oh, they'll be fun, they'll be great adventures, whatever. It'll be like American anime, we'll be fine. This did not shy away. The very first episode, you've got, they go and they rescue Sunspot from the Friends of Humanity because the FOH is still a thing. And golly, the FOH, they didn't shy away from making them just as crazy and fascist and ridiculous as they've ever been. And so I was really, really pleasant. Like I'm blown away. The characterizations are pitch perfect all the way across the board. Beast still talks like Beast. He's very much still, in the words of this person and blah, 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 and this and that. Like, he's so great.
I'm blue, very blue. Wow, an astute observation, my boy. Hank McCoy here. Or if you prefer my friendly nom de guerre, Beast.
Oh, God, I love it. I love it. It's so great. I'm having such a good time geeking out with you guys, by the way, right now. Because literally, this is how I want to be talking to my friends right this second, and you guys are my friends. So thank you so much for letting me do this with you. This is one area that the family know-it-all doesn't exactly share my love is with animation, and so I'm having a good time. I'm all over the road because I don't want to so much spoil it as much as I just want to talk about it with you guys because there's so many exciting things to see. But when you see the whole team together, Bishop is great. Does so good. Storm is amazing. Like, none of those voice actors have missed a beat in terms of how they present them. But Jubilee they save Sunspot from the Friends of Humanity, and there's this deep moment going back to the storytelling where Jubilee sits there and they have these big pontificating conversations just like the old show did. And I'm like, I feel like I'm a kid. I feel like I sat down and it's my freshman year of high school, and I'm watching this show, and it's amazing. It felt unreal. And then, of course, you get to the very, very end where Jean and Scott have decided they're going to leave.
The team, they'll always be family, but with the baby coming, maybe it's time to think of a life beyond the X-Men.
And so they're like, we need to leave to raise a family, this and that. And ultimately, they're trying to figure out who's going to leave in charge. And so they're about to announce to everybody they're taking off. And even Logan's like, you think I don't know that you're going to be taken off, blah, 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 blah. Man, it's so good. And that's when you get the clip we've all seen. The clip of, this is the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. And I'm just like, dude, it's so dope. And what's even better is for those of us who've seen the comics, this is an absolutely perfect rendition of that original story where Magneto has the giant M on his chest. It's just, it's amazing. So, and then that's to be continued. So there you go. Now you know, and knowing's half the battle. You have what you know it all yourself. What's an all index for the first episode, which is To Me, My X-Men. Honestly, it couldn't have started better. Like, seriously, I'm going to have a hard time being judgy about the show. So aside from some minor things that I think took away from some minor just things that took me out of some certain moments, overall, I'm going to give this very first episode a solid 10 out of 10. I know. Where do you go from here? The reason I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, I am genuinely blown away. I'm blown away by the work and the effort that's been put into making this look amazing. I'm blown away by just how well all the threads have come together. And I know that you're going to be impressed too. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Meanwhile, we're going to roll into the next episode because that's what they did. The next episode rolled right in. So the second episode is called Mutant Liberation Begins, but it's not what you think. So as you start this scenario, Magneto has essentially been given, everything that Charles Xavier had has been left to him. And so as the X-Men are hemming and hawing and questioning everything, we see bits and flashes of Magneto doing the Lord's work.
Across the globe, reports are flooding in. Mutants and humans aided and saved by the former mutant terrorists.
Magneto is freeing mutants. He helps the Morlocks all get moved very Underground Railroad style to Genosha, because Genosha is now a mutant stronghold. It's a place. And everyone is saying, hey, man, saved us. He saved us. Humans are being saved by him. The whole thing. Finally, there's this big get together and they're talking, and Cyclops is like, we should let Jean take a look at what's happening in your head, blah, blah, blah. Then you get this wonderful moment. Rogue and Magneto have a talk. And Rogue is essentially trying to explain, hey, when I had to make up for things, and I had to this and that, and you have to earn their trust. And he goes to kind of touch her, and she's like, hey, that's a long time ago. Okay. So anybody who knows anything about the original comic books, there was during Jim Lee's run, there was a really interesting Savage Land era where Rogue was in the Savage Land, Magneto was there, and they became very, very close. And then you fast forward, there was also the Age of Apocalypse that saw them as getting very close, and that they were actually romantically involved and married and had everything and had a child, the whole 9 yards. And then later on, there's this in the comics, same comics, when Magneto, after Onslaught, gets sort of reincarnated as Eric, and he has no memory of being Magneto, but they don't lie to him. He's told, this is who you were, but he's a younger version of himself. Him and Rogue got together then too. So I love the fact that they begin to explore this. It adds dimension to what in the past has been, though fleshed out, fairly two-dimensional characters. It was always, well, Rogue and Gambit are looking for the two, and this and blah, 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 this and this and this, and that other person there. And so I really like that how that whole thing plays out. The other thing is, there's a moment where Jean Grey has a conversation with Storm, and that is such a beautiful moment. So in the comics, Jean and Storm were very close, very almost sister-like in a lot of ways. And so the fact that they're finally exploring sort of that outlook or how that thing progresses, I'm down for. It sounds amazing, and I'm here. I really like it. And it's such a foreshadowing moment, because they're talking about how much they have in common, and how there's a common fight and the whole thing. The UN shows up on their front lawn. And Magneto, taking a cue from Storm, the conversation with Storm, basically agrees to go stand trial and for the past, trying to make up for, or trying to atone, if you will, or trying to earn their trust. He, rather than wrecking shop on fools, decides to go. That's when the Friends of Humanity start piling up, and you see there's all kinds of riots outside and the whole bit, and protests happening. And so this one dude becomes Executioner. Executioner, of course, character from the comics. Very cool character. Funny enough, just saw the Executioner toy on. So clearly X-Men not wasted no time when it comes to getting some toys going on in this whole thing. And it's very cool. I'm probably going to go get me some for the set. But anyway, the idea that the Friends of Humanity are so hardcore about this guy and this, about everything, they're so characterized, again, pitch perfect. So the trial is happening, and Magneto gives an impassioned, look, man, this and this, you people try to do this, try to do that, the whole thing. He's really making his point and making an argument. The snide UN representatives, or the tribunal is because it's a war crimes tribunal, is not really hearing anything. And that's when the crowds outside begin breaking in. And that's when Cyclops is like, X-Men, we got to go do this, and then blah, 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 protect everyone, and the whole thing. And they're doing it. That's that scene I was telling you about where Morph is turning into everybody while fighting some folks. It's great. And so at one point, Executioner gets in, Storm is doing her Storm thing. And so Executioner shows up. There's a big fight happening. And what does Executioner do? He gets an aim on Magneto. Storm jumps in the way. And I thought, oh my God, they just killed Storm. They did worse than kill Storm. This is that weapon. In the comics, we're familiar with this weapon. it essentially removes mutant powers. I don't want to say cures because I feel like that's racist. It removes mutant powers.
The breeze is gone. I cannot feel it. Nor the moisture, nor the air. What has he done to me?
They do it so well. And Magneto is so angry. And he rips the ground out from under them. He grabs, because dude's an idiot wearing metal everywhere, he grabs Executioner. He takes the UN seal right off the wall, rips it off the wall, slams Executioner against that thing, and almost not crucifying him, but and all the tribunal and their entire court thing, he rips it out of the ground, flies everybody up into the air. And up into the air, he takes them into the lower atmosphere. And he turns around and he says, I want to show you how Charles wanted us to see the world. And this is how we live in a communal world. And I'm like, bro, he lays it down. And it's so raw. And then, and he agrees. He's like, yeah, I'm going to free them. No, even though this is what we had to deal with. This is what we had to endure. Because think about that. Imagine something so indelibly built into your identity being ripped from you. That's what's happened. In my opinion, what's happened to Storm is worse than an essay. It's worse than anything that could be any physical violation, any mental violation, because they stripped her of something that is literally ingrained in her DNA. They ripped it out of her. And it's so offensive. Like, I feel for him, and I don't know that I would have, if I was in Magneto's position, if I would have done any different. I would have, or if I would have done what he did. I don't know that I could be that big a man. Because it's so, when you stop and think about what's happened, it's rough. It's real rough. Again, there you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. Wait a minute. I'm forgetting the button of the episode, aren't I? Okay, let's back up a second. So what happens is, it's at the end. Everyone's talking. They're getting ready to say, yeah, no, we're going to leave. We trust you guys. You guys got this all under control.
Happy as ever. What did I say? She's back.
Jean?
I need the X-Men.
It's Jean Grey. Right? Like, what? So, those of you playing at home, we might be very well close to seeing some form of Madeline Pryor type scenario. And if you're not really familiar, in the comic books, there's a character named Madeline Pryor who, after Jean Grey left, Madeline is sort of the mental replacement. She's sort of a clone that was created by Mr. Sinister. I do believe Sinister is going to become a major part of this season. I think, or at least going into the Exodus series, because now you have to find a new major villain and person, whatever. So that's the cliffhanger they left us on, and I'm ready for the very next episode, like right now. So, all right, guys, there you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's the know-it-all index for me for the second episode, Mutant Liberation Begins? I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. It's not that it isn't perfect. The episode is amazing. The first episode had I'm so super impressed with how they handle everything. I was very overwhelmed by how they've executed this whole thing. This episode, I get to really sit with the storytelling. And this feels very much like classic X-Men storytelling from the original series. It dumps a whole lot in 22 minutes. It pours out its heart and soul, gives you some great stirring monologues, gives you something to think about. It's in and it's out, and then sets up the next episode. That's what all these episodes did. So it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Comment below. Let me know what you thought of the 2-episode premiere of X-Men 97. I'm super enjoying it. The intro for the second episode also shifted. Oh, so much fun. Again, chef's kiss on the whole thing. I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. And we're going to keep talking about it here at the Know-It-All Nation and on the Know-It-All channel. So don't forget, later on today, we're going to be having a live stream at 2 o'clock Eastern, which I believe is 11 o'clock. That's right. 11 o'clock, I believe, on the other coast. So can't wait to see it. Mrs. Know-It-All and I will be talking about all the fun stuff happening on the news, including talking about a few trailers that have dropped and whatnot. So with all that said, until next time, Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.